Hi everybody, Laura Heywood here, Broadway Girl NYC. I'm hanging out in my studio slash bedroom. Behind me you'll see logos for my web series, Broadway Fanatic, which is on Broadway On Demand. And we are gonna jump right into it today because I'm excited about a very special, very accomplished guest. She should be popping in any second, and there she is.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? So good to see you.
It's really good to see you too. I feel like I have been seeing so much of you lately because you're everywhere.
Oh, really? Well, thank you.
There are Hallmark movies. There are princess holiday parties. There is R&H Goes Pop. You've been doing so much, and it's all just so beautiful and so you.
Well, thank you so much. I've been honored to kind of be able to stay busy having my hand in a few different things during this time. I'm very, very grateful, especially considering the state that Broadway's in right now. You know, I think we're all just trying to find ways to stay creative and put art out into the world.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, you know, learning new ways and having to invent new ways to make art is
Totally.
even if things do go back to some semblance of normal, hopefully we'll have these new skills, the specific skills we've discovered over this time, and also the knowledge that we are capable of inventing new ways to make art.
There it is.
Yeah.
So true. I completely agree. I think, you know, things will eventually return to what we knew, but I feel like this has, you're right, challenged us all to kind of step up to the plate. And I think things will change. I think we're going to bring what we've learned during this time back into our industry for sure.
Yeah. So can we start with Broadway Goes Pop, because that was sort of the occasion that got me to finally reach out. I know I first mentioned to you that I was doing this Instagram series months ago, and then finally I was like, okay, there's a publicist to go through. I'm going to send off the request. We're going to get a time on the calendar.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I love that you chose this song from Carousel because it is not one that I hear all the time. For people who haven't seen the video yet, can you tell us what it is and why you chose it?
Yes. So Laura's talking about R&H Goes Pop. I've been partnering with R&H for 2 years now. We started the series like 2.5 years ago. And we launched it at Broadway Con, actually, I think in 2018. Yeah, 2018 or 2019. I don't know. I don't even remember now which year it was. And so I
remember conventions. What?
I know, right? I was like, was it just 2 years ago? And when quarantine hit, we started doing like R&H like goes acoustic pop from home, and just like zooming and having, you know, people sing their reimagined Rodgers and Hammerstein classics. And the whole point is to honor these, you know, these incredible songs that have withstood the test of time, these great Rodgers and Hammerstein iconic tunes, and reimagine them for a contemporary audience. And I am hosting the series, and it's been a really fun thing to get to do during this time, and you know, since it was launched. And I finally got to perform instead of host, and I did "What's the Use of Wondering" from Carousel, and I feel like it's Julie's song that is underappreciated and never really sung, partly because the content of it is a little bit tricky to deal with. You know, she's saying, even though he mistreats me, you love who you love. I love him. And so, you know, it's kind of a difficult subject to tackle, you know, but everyone sings "If I Loved You" from that musical. And having done the role, I got to play Julie Jordan in Chicago. That song, "What's the Use of Wondering," has always held a special place in my heart, and no one had done it yet. And I thought, maybe this is the opportunity. So I partnered with Ben Rauhala, my dear, dear friend and incredible music director, and he created this kind of haunting, lilty version of "What's the Use of Wondering" based on this Selena Gomez song and video. And so it was really cool. It was fun to get to do, and you know, still be me, but bring a kind of pop element to the song that everyone knows.
Yeah, I think, first of all, the black and white video shoot is so gorgeous. You look beautiful.
Oh my gosh, thanks.
I also think that, you know, we talk about problematic content, and Carousel has been criticized for that. And for the revival recently, they did adjust a couple of lines with permission of the Rodgers and Hammerstein organization. I believe the original line is something like, sometimes a hit feels like a kiss. Um, and
I'm trying to think. Is that yeah, something like
um,
that, where it's like,
and
oh, okay.
right, yeah. But that said, um, that is sort of like excusing the idea of being hit. But I think that anybody who's ever been in love has struggled with the idea of somebody not being perfect to them.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it is like he forgot to call on my anniversary, or he like chose to go to a football game with the guys instead of, it doesn't have to be taken out of the context of the show. It isn't necessarily about like abuse. It's just, it can
Right.
be about, think about the topics that we hear in the pop songs that we listen to today,
Oh, completely. You're
it's
so right.
in a weird way, it's kind of like I don't want no scrubs. It's
Yes.
like, it's just
What's
like he's not the worst. I mean, that's more of like a get out of here bad guy, but there are a million songs about women who are attracted to bad guys and guys who are attracted to like naughty girls.
exactly? It's a little Bonnie and Clyde too, that way, where I'm like, the good girl fell in love with the bad boy, and in the musical, they really only reference him hitting her once. And not that it's okay. That's still
Right.
not okay. But it's like, how can you tell that story truthfully without condoning it? You don't have to condone or celebrate that it happened, but it is a story worth telling because it does happen. We just shouldn't stop telling those stories because we don't, support them. So, I think it's an interesting topic to broach and to talk about if people are willing to go there and to have receptive hearts and listen to it. We did end up changing one lyric of the song when I did it too, because the lyric in the song for us that was, so when he wants your kisses, you will give them to the lad. So that alludes to that line that you were talking about, like the hit feels like the kiss, where it's like anywhere he leads you will walk. We didn't just like give into the fact, we just used the lyric from the first verse twice when I sang it, so that we, taken out of context, the song could still make sense.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that. And also, I'm even more than just that one individual decision. I know it's really satisfying and heartwarming to me to know that this was done under the auspices of the Rodgers and Hammerstein organization. I think that sometimes it is not well established in popular culture necessarily that the playwright and or the estate of the playwright have ultimate say. You can't just go changing lines because you don't like them.
Right.
And there are certain playwrights who, completely reasonably, or maybe unreasonably in some cases, I don't know. Like there are playwrights who are generous with flexibility, and some who are very rigid in like, I wrote it the way I wrote it because that's how it has to be said. And
Exactly.
knowing that this was something that was done with their approval and oversight, etc., it just makes me feel good about them as an organization.
True. And, Rodgers and Hammerstein were very ahead of their time. They were not afraid of talking about controversial issues like racism in South Pacific. You've got to be carefully taught. And
Right.
like, abusive relationships in Carousel, and even in King and I, like the hierarchy, between men and women. And they weren't afraid to address those things way back when. I think that's why their musicals have really withstood the test of time, as we were talking about, that those issues are still very relevant today.
Yeah, actually, when I think about Cinderella, your Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella, um, uh, that show is special to me for a lot of reasons. But believe it or not, I had never seen the movie. So seeing you
Nice.
in that role was the first time I was introduced to it, unlike a lot of people my age who were very familiar with the film version. But I brought my nieces they were, I think, 5 and 7 at the time. And we talked so much about the rewrites specifically. They didn't know they were rewrites, but the idea that, and actually, I don't even know how much of it was rewrite, but like that what mattered to her was that he was kind,
Right.
that like the fact that he was a prince was fine, but it was like what she loved about this guy she met in the woods was that he was generous and patient and sweet.
Yes.
As opposed to like, yo, I'm gonna get a diamond crown, sweet.
Exactly.
Moving,
Yeah,
she was like, the palace, I don't know. I like my own little corner. I like have my little corner. But this guy is pretty nice.
exactly.
So if he happens to be a prince.
I love how Douglas Carter Bean rewrote our book to really empower Cinderella. She's the one that challenges the prince to like step up and become the leader that he needs to be, and getting justice for the kingdom, and for everyone should have a vote. Like Cinderella instills like an election
Democracy.
in her town for the first time in democracy. Exactly. And she's known obviously for her charity, her generosity, her kindness, her forgiveness, her imagination. And she's in charge of her own fate. It's not the damsel in distress who happens to lose her shoe. I hope I'm not spoiling anything. I think people know by now that in our version, she's the one that's like, oh my gosh, I should leave my shoe, and then he'll be able to find me. Like she brings her fate into her own hands, and I loved that. It made Cinderella, this strong woman for sure.
If you think about it a certain way, it's essentially the Michelle Obama story.
Yeah, totally. I love it.
Speaking of princesses, I believe the Princess Party, the holiday special, is still available through 54 Below.
Yes, it is.
And you guys did that during quarantine, right?
Yes, we filmed it November 22nd at 54 Below. I've been in Connecticut, so I just drove back to the city for the day. And the crew kind of all got tested, and we were able to be in the space and record our holiday concert, which we were so grateful to do. And now it is streaming and available through December 26th. So please check it out. It's really magical and sweet, and I was laughing and smiling through the whole thing.
It's great. And like there are moments that I was like applauding in my apartment, and
yes.
my number one question for you is, where did you get the Little Mermaid Christmas sweater?
Okay, so you guys, these sweaters were gifted to us from a company called Merchoid, MERCHOID.com. So go to their website. They're also on Instagram. We tagged them in all the photos and in all our posts because we were getting so many questions about them. So we reached out to them and said, we're doing this concert. We love your stuff. And they sent us sweaters. So we were super excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so great. And, I think a lot about when companies gift content. Like, I get asked a lot about being an influencer, which is not a term that I love. However, mostly because of its context of like, give me free stuff and pay me and I'll put my name behind it.
Sure.
But then I also think about the fact that like, I know I have a lot of influence. And so to me, I always start with what kind of influence do I want to have on the world? And that helps sort of guide me. But I think that there is such a beautiful intersection of like symbiosis, where a company like that's so closely aligned with what you do and who you love,
right,
and what your personal identity is and your professional identity, and if they can help you a little bit and you can help them, like I wish not that this was even sponsored content necessarily, I don't know, but like I feel like that is exactly the way that sponsorships should work, or even trade should work, is how do we make it right for everybody instead of out of context because somebody's calling in a favor,
Sure, exactly. Well, it's a very real way to advertise these days.
Totally.
And I've only just kind of dipped my toe into it. You probably have more than I have, but yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. We were going to order them anyway, so we just reached out on Instagram to see if by chance they were interested, and they wrote back. So it was like, cool, thank you. So what's the worst they can say is no, and then we order them. So. Anyway,
yeah, well, I mean, I'm gonna go take a look. Little Mermaid not only is my favorite movie of all time, but the first Broadway show I ever saw was Crazy for You.
Oh my gosh, Jodie Benson.
We sat in the front row. I was 13 years old, and the way that show was staged for that production, the original production, at one point Jodie Benson sits on the front of the stage with her boots dangling over the side, and I was on the aisle. I was not in the center section, but like on the center aisle off to one side, and she sat right in front of me, kicked her heels at me, and we made eye contact, and my whole life changed. And then the craziest thing about it is that it was August of 1992. I was 13 years old, and being from California, where it doesn't rain unless it's cold out, we were not prepared for a huge summer downpour. And so when we came out, there was this massive rainstorm going on, and we were the only people who didn't have umbrellas. So we sheltered under the marquee at the Schubert Theater, and we happened to be right next to the stage door. And she walked out, and she said, "I saw you in the front row with your pretty smile."
Oh.
I know. It's still basically like my touchstone. Whenever I walk through Schubert Alley, I go and I stand on that spot and I'm like, this is where my life changed.
Nice highlight. Jody is so sweet, by the way. Like we've worked with her actually quite closely with some of the BPP stuff before, and she's been a guest at our concert, and she's just the sweetest and so supportive and wonderful.
Is there any crazy for you news?
No, actually. I mean, I think, Broadway's completely shut down, and the things that
I guess that does slow everything
the
down.
the things that were running already, I think are going to have there are things that are slated to continue running when this starts again, and other things that have since closed, which maybe now there's room. I think the world would welcome a show like Crazy for You just because it's so, joyful and I don't know, happy. And I think the world needs that when Broadway returns. But we'll see. I haven't heard
now,
anything
we just
more.
need to get the industry back up and running. I will say
Exactly.
that I interviewed Susan Stroman along with Tony Yazbek about a production that they did at the Vineyard, and I told her this story. I don't remember whether I told her on camera or off camera, but she was like, "You are going to be my guest at opening night of Crazy for You when the revival happens."
Nice.
I hope it was on camera so that I have a record of it, because it was
there. You
a
go.
couple of years ago. But I think that would be like the most amazing full circle moment for me.
I mean,
and for you to be there would be so, like, for you to be, I'm open.
Totally. I mean, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, like, yes and no, but it's been kind of in the works for like 3 or 4 years now. Yeah. So I just, it's like, you just can't ever know if those things are going to end up happening or not, whether it's theater availability or whatever. So
some things look like they're dead in the water, and then suddenly 10 years later, there they are.
Exactly.
So
you just never know until it's like opening night, till the contract is signed and it's actually happening. So we'll see.
I heard about people who have like started rehearsals before their contracts were signed.
Yes.
What? Anyway.
Yep, it's true. Or things that are in rehearsal and then shut down in rehearsal. You know what I mean? You just never. You may think something's happening. You just never really know. Business. What did we get ourselves into?
Tell me about it. I have totally pivoted. I started in March. I started selling my playbill collection just because I was like, I don't know how to make any money. And the most amazing thing happened. A whole bunch of people in the industry who, like, I was donating a lot of the money to the Actors Fund and Broadway Cares and stuff. And all of these people were like, I want to give money to the Actors Fund and Broadway Cares too, but I got laid off. And so I don't have money to give them. But what I do have is these playbills. So they said to me, Laura, why don't you keep yours, sell mine instead, and share the money with the charities. And so now I've actually started a whole business where I'm partnering with collectors, former collectors, and artists to sell their stuff for them on eBay. And we split the money 3 ways between the artist for having the stuff, me for doing the work, and a charity of their choice. And I've donated more than $5,000 to arts organizations and civil rights organizations and Black Lives Matter. And it's like, I have an office and over 1,000 items in an eBay store and stuff. So it's called Applause Shop. And I will tell you, the biggest sellers in Applause Shop are Bonnie and Clyde items.
Oh, thanks. Quite the fan base that little failure of a show has.
I saw it 3 times. And because, Tad Wilson and I were best friends. We're still very close, but at that point, we were inseparable. And so, like, I got to come to Sardi's for Wednesday night dinner. And, like, it was one of the first shows where I really felt like I was more than just an audience member. I was welcomed into the family, so.
Yeah, we loved the show very much and are so grateful that it has lived on beyond its 2-month run. Yeah, and it's been done internationally and has such a loyal following now. 10 years after we ran on Broadway.
I've been watching the comments go by, and there are a lot of Bonnie and Clyde, not just in the comments, but like their usernames are like Bonnie and Clyde fans.
Yes, short in love and life, like 279.
What do you think? What do you think it is about that show?
I don't know. I think I think it's a sexy musical, and Frank's songs are unbelievable, and Jeremy Jordan has such a huge fan base, and
As do
and an
you,
amazing
as do
voice,
you.
I just think the cast album really allowed the show to live on in ways that we never could have imagined, and I think it's a testament to Frank's songs and the performances in the show.
And your performance too. It's just, it's
Thanks.
iconic. And
Thank
it's like
you.
the fact that I think that maybe the fact that one of the themes of the show is dying young. Um, that when the show follows the trajectory of its own subject matter, you know,
Exactly. I was like, we had a short and love in life on Broadway. It
that's
was it
exactly
was
right.
full of love and it was awesome, but it was short and worth it. I wouldn't change anything. I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, I,
Obviously.
I might have changed that. It might not have closed so soon, but it also opened up opportunities for you to do other things, and for Jeremy, didn't Jeremy go straight into Newsies from there?
He did. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Newsies and Bonnie and Clyde happened the same year. So I actually often think that the same season. I often
Mhm.
think that I was like, Bonnie and Clyde had to close so Jeremy could do Newsies. I was like, because he chose Bonnie and Clyde. He was choosing between the two because they were happening the same season. He chose Bonnie and Clyde, and then it only lasted 2 months, which made him suddenly available to do Newsies. So I was
Yes.
like, that had to happen because he was so good at
Um,
Newsies, obviously.
so, and it's its own kind of happy ending, and everyone has gone on to do really wonderful things. I know that we have a limited amount of time, and it's just about time to wrap up. But I want to make sure we tell everybody where to find the R&H Goes Pop stuff, which you're such an incredible host of, which is just the Rogers and Hammerstein YouTube channel.
Exactly. You can follow R&H. Oh, Lila wanted to say hello. You can follow
I want
R&H
to see
on.
Lila.
I know she's here. She's just
Oh,
like,
hi.
she loves being on my lap for all of the Zoom calls throughout the
Oh my
day.
God.
um, so you can follow Rogers and Hammerstein on all the social channels. And yeah, they have their own YouTube channel where all the videos are posted every week. And then I often will post every Wednesday. I think the videos have been going up like every other Wednesday. So yeah, stay tuned for all of the stuff. We just, finished out the year with my video, and I'm sure we'll be doing more in the new year.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. I think that may be a scoop. I didn't know that there were more planned for 2021, but
Uh-huh.
I also just want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is a larger audience than I usually get because you're such a beloved star. And it's especially nice to see all of the comments saying, Laura, I love you so much. I'm honored.
There you go. Laura and Laura.
Obviously,
This is good. We should do this more often.
exactly. I'm only going to interview people named Laura because it just comments make me feel so loved just by nature of having the same name. Luckily, there are a lot of
So
Lauras
good.
on Broadway, so.
True that indeed. That we're in good company.
So go find R&H on YouTube. Get your ticket to the Broadway Princess Party at 54 Below, which is streaming and so good. Can the movie be found still?
Yes, my Hallmark movie One Royal Holiday is airing on Christmas morning, early at 6:30 Eastern. So if you want to get up and see if Santa came, and flip on Hallmark Channel, and it's also airing, I think, January 2nd, a couple days after Christmas. You can still find me and Aaron Tveit falling in love
Man,
at
you
Christmas
have
time.
like kissed every cute boy on Broadway.
I've been very lucky, very, very lucky with my leading men.
We're gonna have
All
to
such
have
great
you,
guys too.
We're gonna have to have you like compare and contrast sometime.
I could never.
We can all live
I could never.
vicariously. I'm going to end with a question that you're welcome to not answer, but it keeps going by in the comments, and that is, can you make any comment about Houdini?
Oh, yes. Okay, so I feel like the press release made it seem like this is coming to Broadway tomorrow. I have to say, like, this was the very first preliminary reading that has ever been done of this. So it is very much early work in progress. I was very honored to be asked to be a part of it, but like, there's no contracts, there's no nothing, there's no theater. So just know that, like, great, a reading happened is really all that happened.
And when a reading happens, that is an agreement for a single read through. It doesn't imply anything for the future. Sometimes,
right.
I know Cheyenne Jackson did readings of Book of Mormon, even though they knew he wasn't going to be in Book of Mormon because he would be too old to play whoever, but they also knew that his voice would do so that the producers and the creatives could hear the voices. but it didn't necessarily mean a job in the future.
Exactly. So press releases are often misleading, and as honored as I was to be part of it, and sure, I would be interested in pursuing it, but there's no like timeline or anything. So we'll see what happens. But we had a lot of fun in the Zoom room, getting to create and learn new things, and I'm excited about it. Thank you, everybody, for all of your excitement. But know that it was very preliminary, one-time thing.
We will be seeing you somewhere, hopefully in real life, safely and healthily. Great. Now the comments are saying, "We love you, Laura Osnes." Just to clarify that they work for me. Thanks very much, everybody.
I love you. I love you all, and we all love Laura Heywood as well. So,
thank you, Laura Osnes. Love to Lila. Love to your gorgeous husband.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing, because you bring so much joy to the world, and we're all grateful to you for it.
So sweet. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on today. So nice to check in with you, and all of you guys too. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye, guys.